Hi, sweet friends. I hope you are having a great week and you're getting ready for a most blessed Easter. I am so looking forward to this Easter. Easter, as much as I love Christmas, Easter is my favorite holiday because it reminds me of the grace that I live under, the mercy that I live under, the fact that I am no longer subject to trying to live under the law, because Christ was the perfect sacrifice for me. So I am so looking forward to celebrating it, and I hope all of you all have special plans for your Easter holiday. We're still working on our Easter journal, and the truth is, a junk journal is something that we work on for a while. So I've gotten us to the point where we have our journal together, and I want to show you what my plan was originally, because I tend to be very, I plan things, and then I tend to probably overestimate what will really work and be a good, let me get this all the way in frame for you. What will be a good plan of action. But so for the first part, we've done that one. We were going to do the cover and begin to select our papers. For part 2, we finished our cover, we selected our signatures, and we sewed them in. That was a very reasonable plan. Part 3, I thought I was going to show you all the different kinds of ephemera that you can put into them. And not only would that overwhelm me, the truth is it would probably overwhelm you as well. And so I just want to talk through the kinds of ephemera that we have, that we're going to make. And then I'm going to make some short videos for each of these different kinds of ephemera, because you'll be making your ephemera as you know what you want to document. So we're going to talk about pockets and envelopes and tucks and tags and journaling spots and photo spots and belly bands. And there's going to be lots of techniques in all of that. But for today, we are just going to work on some tags that I think you might want to have done even before Easter. So let me I didn't look at my list to tell you that the other thing that I want to do is I want to show you how I shopped my stash, because the last video I told you to shop your stash. So this will make it really easy for you to sit down and create whatever kinds of ephemera. Once you've looked at and decided what kind of ephemera you want to put in your journal, if you've shopped your stash and you've pulled it together, I found that makes it a lot easier, because I tend to, if I sit down to make a tag and I'm going, oh, what should I use? I've got so many options. I have a tendency to get overwhelmed with that. So I'm going to put the journal out of the way, because we're not going to work in our journal today. You can hear the puppies being excited about people coming to the door. We are still in our little place here. In fact, I'll pause while they get excited, and then we'll come back. Okay, it's a little quieter now. I basically have 2 folders and a basket, and that's what I'm going to work from. My first folder is all of my printables and the things that I have chosen. And remember, I told you that I printed some of the printables out on the thinner paper because we're going to do collage. And so I've put all of those things in here. At the very back, and this is just something that I have found I even printed some out in black and white. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them, but you know, when I'm shopping my stash, I'm thinking of all the things I may want. And so I have my tags. I hope you went and got your free tags over on Ko-fi. I also hope that you went and got your free additional collage pages. I've printed that out a couple times because I may want to use elements out of that. So when I'm thinking about making ephemera, and shopping my stash, I'm thinking about what is it that I might need to make whatever project I'm going to do. But I thought I would show you this. Now I will remove this and put it in the basket, but this is how I store my projects until I am in the make mode. I use these little envelopes that I get from scrapbook.com, and I use a medical file folder. I punch a hole in it and I stick all of the ephemera, so in here is all the ephemera that is from our kit. So it's all in there, and that way I can easily find the things that are associated with the kit. So that's the first folder. It's an easy folder to keep track of. My second folder is a little bit more of a mess, but it's smaller than what going through everything that I have. So I go through my boxes that have little scraps because we're going to do collage. I went through and found some colored papers that I had made with distress stains in Easter colors. I thought those might be interesting. I pulled some tea-dyed papers. This is from my stash. Just things that are in my studio that I may or may not, but instead of trying to go, oh, what do I need? What do I need? I'm going to make everything that goes into the journal from the things that are in here. I have some tea-dyed book pages in here. I have just some tea-dye pages. You know, I told you that I was going to shop my stash of 6x6 scrapbook papers. I did that. Already selected them. I'm not even keeping the pads of paper in here. I'm keeping this. I've chosen a couple more of the Tim Holtz papers that I think will look, that we can use. There's also lots of fun little elements that we can cut out for collage on that. I told you that I was going to use 49 and mark it, and I've gone through and I've selected those pages as well. Interestingly enough, I love this about this company. Look at the paper that's on the back of their cover, and it's just as heavyweight as the rest of the paper. And then I think their back cover, did I pull their back cover? I don't know if I pulled it or not. But anyway, I've pulled all of those things out. Here is the trim off of the paper that I made my inside cover with. I have some just book pages that are not tea-dyed. I have some ledger paper that is tea-dyed. You saw earlier there was ledger paper that had been tea-dyed. I have some more straw paper. I have more of our packaging, and I have some envelopes. I don't know if we're going to use any of these as we go along. I have some, and I put some basic heavyweight cardstock in the back of this. So that is my kind of paper stash that I'm going to be drawing from as we go along. And then I told you I had a basket, and that basket looks like this. And this is where, and I will add the other ephemera envelope into this, but I have gone through and I keep, when I do things that I do what I call a work along. There are days when I'm not feeling super creative, but I want to do something, and I will sit down and I will make bases for the different kinds of ephemera, and I put those into this envelope. I put things like packaging that I may want to make a tag out of. I may sit down and do some die cuts, you know, just do some die cuts and put them in there so that they're there. I have put some napkins in here. I have some tags in here. I have an envelope that a friend sent to me with an Easter note. But to get to this basket, the other thing I have are, remember I showed you the 49 and Market ephemera packs that go with that paper. I don't know if we're going to use any of that. I'll put the link down. I'm sure we'll use some of it because I love it so much and it's so perfect. But I'm going to show you how to make a lot. Now, the other thing that I shopped was this basket. And this is my make-along basket. This is where, as I have time, I sit down and I make a tag. I don't know what journal it's going to be for. And I have gone through, and I think I left one in here to find. I just make little things. I mean, this took 2 minutes to make. It's a piece of scrapbook paper folded over and some offcuts of tea dye paper. I'm going to pull that out. That may be a fun thing. I make tags. I don't decorate them because I don't know where I'm going to use them. But I have already gone through here pretty well, except for there were these. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use one of those or not. We'll see. I can come back and shop this again. I have envelopes that I have already made and decorated. And they just go into this basket. And then I have Tim Holtz journaling cards because they're always good for a quick piece of ephemera or a little tuck. So this will not normally be with me because I have already done the shopping for that. So let me get everything cleared off. I want to show you what we are going to make today. Interestingly enough, many of you have contacted me privately to ask me about this book, not questions about how to do the journal, but about this book, the book that I call my glue book. And you were like, what happens to all the pages? Is that what? And some of you were very honest and said it feels very wasteful for you to have a book that you use for nothing other than gluing. But the truth is, I make things out of this. When I fold it over, it's not fully glued. It has a little bit of glue on it, but I pull, when it's dry, I pull it out and I plan to use it. And so I want to show you, today we're going to make tags, these little fun little carrot tags that I think are going to be very fun. And they're made from our glue book. I make tags from my glue book. I want you to see I've made all of these tags out of pages from my glue book because I can color it. I can put gesso on it. I can do all kinds of things to the page for you to kind of, nobody's going to know which book this is from. They just aren't. So let me show you the basic process of how I get from here to here. And this will be our project for today. I'm going to show you how to make this kind of fun fancy tag, and then I'm going to show you that you can also do it with a much simpler, just plain Jane pocket, just plain Jane tag. So I want to show you several ways to do that. But to begin with, the thing that we want to do is make certain that it's glued well. And this one is glued well except for over here at the side. And because I'm going to use a punch on it, I'm going to go ahead and just take this off. Now, this goes into my folder of what I call collage fodder. I don't know when we'll use it, but we're going to use it. This is a page that I've already colored, but I want to show you a couple of ways to color things. Remember I told you about making my coffee staining mixture. I don't want to have to do these in big, huge batches. I want to do them as we go along. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stain it a little bit. I meant to put a napkin down so that we wouldn't have a mess to clean up. Let me do that. I'm putting some shop towels down. That'll help us keep moving. And I'm going to dry it off. And because I have the alcohol in here, it's going to dry really pretty quickly. Okay? A little spray on the back. And you can see that it ages it a little bit, makes it okay. And I'm also going to use some Distress Oxide sprays. Now I'm going to use 2 or 3 different ones just because it's fun to have a little bit of variety. So I'm going to put, that was Kitsch Flamingo, and I'm going to put probably my, hope I brought my favorite in here. I didn't, did I? Oh, sad. Oh well. We'll do some Salvage Patina. And you can see we're beginning to cover up and a little Lost Shadow. That, I will tell you that this is the newest color from Tim Holtz. And when he brought it out, I wasn't really sure if I was going to like it or not. I love this color because it adds a little bit of aging that is just wonderful. Now I'm going to give it a little mist so that the colors move around a little bit. And I'm going to let them run together, and I'm gonna dry it. Now, to save time, I'm not going to make you watch paint dry. I'm going to go over to one that is already dry and show you what I do next. So to make the fancy tag, let me show you how to do the two kinds of tags. If you want just a plain tag, you can take your scissors and just snip the corners off using a tag as a template. And you will notice that I have sewn around my tags. Guys, I love that look. I love that look. You could do this with watercolor. You can change, there's so many ways that you can change the color of your backdrop. So I've showed you how I've sprayed. This was watercolor that I did. And now I'm going to show you one other way that I think is super fun. And that is to use oxide inks and a brush. And I'm going to take antique linen and I'm going to put it I'm going to use a pretty heavy hand. And I'm sorry that it's rocking the table a little bit. This is a small table, and guys, we're working on where we ultimately will land, and it'll be a little bit better situation. But for right now, hopefully you can be patient with me, and we can put up with all the shakiness of the camera being on the same page as I'm on the table with. So when I move, it moves. I apologize. I hope it doesn't make you seasick. But I am adding some oxide ink. You could do any ink. I have found that when I'm adding blending kind of ink over things, that the very best way for me to do that is with one of these brushes. And I've listed in the description below my I have this one because this is the one that I've used forever for this antique linen, but I usually use these large paddle brushes so I can cover a larger area, and they are really easy on your hand. These are a little bit, these require you to grip them a little bit harder, but they work. Whatever you have. If you have a sponge, use a sponge. Guys, I want you to use what you have. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks of how to make things easier, but I don't want anybody to feel compelled to go and get everything that I have. I have been crafting for decades, and so I have a lot of things that I've acquired to make my life a little easier, because I make a lot of things. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some Distress Walnut ink around the edges. Not everybody loves to ink. I love to ink. I like the definition that it gives. And I like that the oxide ink and the distress ink interact really nicely with each other. So this is the third way that you can put color on. You can blend your color on. You can spray your color on. You can use watercolor or other kinds of paint and just paint over your book pages. I'm going to bring this in just a little bit because I want to age it a little bit, especially up at the corners. Just like that look. You do you. I'm just showing you techniques that I think you will have fun trying out. And if you haven't tried something and you're like, I'm not sure if I would like it or not, this is just a piece of paper. If you hate it, you can throw it away. If you love it, you can make more. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some water, and I'm going to spray it because Distress ink interacts with water. It's water reactive. So let me get a towel over here and blot it. And I want you to see how it has, can you see how there's all those little dots and aging around there? And I'm going to dry that off. We need it to be really good and dry. Let me turn the camera off so that you don't have to watch me do this, because dry is the name of the game. Okay, so this is good and dry now, and I've brought our original tag back in because I want to show you how I made this carrot. And I made it from, surprisingly, the Bottle Brush Tree set by Tim Holtz. When I say shop your stash, I want you to look at everything with a critical eye. What else can, ask yourself, what else can I use it for? I feel like we put money into our supplies, and then we tend to think of them maybe just seasonally. And these were really fun to make Christmas cards with, but they are perfect for making carrots with. So let me show you how I did that. I'm going to put that on a little stamp block. I'm going to move our original out of the way, and I'm going to use some spiced marmalade, okay, because that's a nice kind of carroty orange. And I'm not going to do much of I'm just going to do the bottle tree. I may come up the stem just a little bit, but I'm putting this on, taking the pad, and I'm going directly to the stamp. We've got it nice and juicy. Then I'm going to turn it over. Put it down and give it good pressure. If you have one of those little pressurized tool, that will be a bonus. I'm just going to give it time to absorb into the paper, and then I'm going to pick it up. And we've got the beginning of our carrot. And I'm going to dry that again because I want to emboss it to make it stand out. This is the focal image of our tag, of this tag. And so I want it to really stand out. Oxide ink absorbs into the paper. It does not, it's not great for embossing with. And so So what I want to do is dry this off, get it good and dry, and then I will come back and we will emboss it. So we have several options when we get to embossing, but the most important thing is for this to be really dry, because anywhere that there is a little bit of dampness, embossing powder is going to stick to it. But the other thing that I did while I was drying this was I cleaned off our stamp so that we can use embossing ink. Now, Versamark ink, I'm going to use the Distress Embossing Dauber because it lets me get a good amount on there. But we also have choices in embossing powder. You choose what you have. I have a tendency to use colored ink and clear powder. But for this, because I wanted it to be really the focal image, I'm going to use a distressing glaze. This is in Tattered Rose because I'm using what I have. I don't have spiced marmalade in the distressed glaze, but I do have it in the tea rose, and you'll notice it's in the color family, so I think that will be just fine. If you don't have colored ink, but you have colored embossing powder, use that. Use what you have. I am a huge believer in us using what we have. Now, I do have a stamp platform, but I'm trying to keep things just as simple as they possibly can be. And I actually like how artsy and just a little, if it isn't exactly in place. So I am using the dauber and I'm going over the stamp and looking for it to be good and shiny everywhere that I want embossing powder to be. Okay? You can do this with Versamark ink. You can do it with any company's embossing ink. This is basically glycerin and a few other chemicals. It's just a sticky ink that stays wet long enough for us to put the powder on it. So I'm going to now turn this over, and I am not being super precise. I'm looking down through it. I'm using the same stamp and I'm just putting it right down on it, and I'm giving it plenty of time to add some of the ink onto the paper, and then I'm going to pick it straight up. Okay, and now I love embossing. It's one of my favorite techniques. I'm going to pour the embossing glaze. One of the difference between embossing powder and embossing glaze is that embossing glaze is transparent. You can see through it. It will change the color slightly of the ink or whatever that is underneath. Okay, now ask me how I know that this is the right thing to do. More than once in my life, I have put my powder onto the page and just moved it out of the way because I was so excited to get to this part, because this is like Christmas to me. I love what happens when we emboss, but we're using a heat tool. Now, for those of you that are new crafters, this is different than like a hair dryer. A hair dryer puts out a little bit of heat and a lot of air. This puts out very little wind or air but a lot of heat. And this is what you want. You will wait a very long time and blow all your powder away if you try to do this with a hair dryer. So I'm going to actually leave the heat tool on the whole time, and I'm hopefully going to let you see the magic take place, because I love when it goes from being this kind of sandy looking texture to we get the glossy texture. So I'm going to stand up so I can make sure that you can see what I'm doing. You want to let your heat tool heat up ahead of time. And then you bring your heat tool, I'm going to bring this up. And can you see, don't burn your fingers, can you see the gloss that's coming to this? Can you see that gloss? Isn't that just, that is magic. It's magic to me. Oh, I just love it. I just love it. Now the last thing that I'm going to do before I put, we finish this tag off with a sentiment, is I'm going to put a little bit of my distress inks down in separate places. I don't want to mix them. The reason I don't want to mix them, these are two different kinds of ink. This is a dye ink. This is a hybrid between pigment ink and dye ink, and they are not intended to mix well with each other. But I can add some water to both of them and grab a little paintbrush. I know I have the paintbrush here somewhere. And I'm going to go first into my brown ink, and I'm going to just splatter it. And then I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'm going to go into my orange ink, and I'm going to splatter it as well. Those of you that have taken classes with me know that I don't think a tag is finished until we've splattered it. But you want to do this now before we go to the next step. I'm going to clean my brush off, and I don't want you to think that I'm going to waste that ink. So I'm going to take one of my tags and I'm going to dip it in and just soak up all of that yummy goodness that's there. And I'll do the other ink on the back side, and I'll set that aside, and it'll show up later. It'll show up later. Don't worry. But I'm going to clean off the rest of this, and as soon as I've cleaned this off, we'll come back and we'll do the next step. Okay, so I want to answer a couple of other questions. I want to show you how I made the fancy topped tag, because that's just using a punch. But I also want to answer a question that I think some of you may have, because you may, if you are new to junk journaling, you may not have books that you have extra book pages out of. You can use just a plain tag and take a script stamp and stamp it with a brown ink, a black ink, whatever kind of, but make it a pigment ink that is permanent like archival ink or stays on ink, because we're going to add wet mediums to that. So if you do not have a book page to use, then create one that looks like a book page. Now, because I happen to know that my punch needs this to be about 2 inches, 2.5 inches wide, I'm going to tear down. I'm going to leave the folded side, and I'm going to tear this side down. This isn't going in the trash. This is going in the collage fodder envelope. We may use it later. I'm going to grab my tag punch. Again, you could just do a little snip snip up at the top, but I like this little fancy top tag that we have, and so we start this way, put it in like this. Didn't get it quite the right size, but put it, okay, I didn't get it quite the right size, so I'm just going to come and ish, my favorite word. I need to make a t-shirt that says ish. Close enough. Okay, so let's put our tag into here, and you can see that there's these little lanes. So if you want a 1.5 tag, a 2.5 tag, or a 2-inch tag, you know how wide you need it to go. I'm doing a 2.5, and you know what? The top of this tag got, top of this page got a little scrunched, so it's not wanting to go in. Okay, so I've put it in all the way. I turn it over to make sure that it's even on both sides. Can you see? It took me, I don't know how many years to figure out that I could turn a punch over and see how the positioning is, but once I know it's where I want it, I can turn it back over, and there we go. We have our fancy little punch. Now, me personally, I would go sew at this point. Not going to do it. Don't want to take your time to do that. We're going to go ahead and stamp our carrot. Going to wipe off the embossing ink. I'm going to stamp our Distress Oxide Spiced Marmalade all over the stamp. Put it down. And I'm going to bring this up because I'm going to put the carrot top as the tag topper. So I'm going to let that sit for just a second. Give it a good press. Make sure it has time to transfer the ink. And I need an actual wet wipe to clean off that stamp. Get all of that ink off of there. Dry it off. I use these microfiber towels to dry with. I bought a pack of them on Amazon. I use them. It's good for the environment. I can throw them into the wash, and it's all good. Okay, I do want to just make sure this is good and dry. And now we're going to add our embossing ink. So move this out of the way. Put this down. Do as I say, not as I do. Put the lids back on your ink pads. They will last much longer. And now I'm going to use my embossing ink again. Put it all over our stamp. And this one, I'm trying to show you what a little bit not as grungy, clean, and simple tag would look like. I'm matching it up, giving it a good press, making sure it has time for the ink to transfer. Picking it straight up, and then I'm going to pour our distressed embossing glaze over our tag. Tap it off. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to put it back in the jar. It takes this, a little jar just lasts forever if you don't blow it away or dump it over. Ask me how I know. Okay, let's let the magic happen. Oh. I don't know why that makes me so happy, but it just does. I love seeing it turn shiny. It's so fun. So, you'll notice that this tag is really long. It's really long. You could just cut it off, snip it off. But I want to show you another idea. And that is turn it up and make a pocket. Because in junk journaling, you're always looking for a place to put a little teeny tiny tag, to put some tickets, to put a label, to put a little journaling spot. So when you have something that is long like this, leave it long. Now I'm not going to do the splattering because you already know how all of that goes. We're going to go back to our original tag and we're going to stamp our sentiment on here. I'm going to stamp Happy Easter. These would be really fun for you to do for your kids or your grandkids' Easter baskets. Put their name on it. I have Happy Easter. You're probably going to wonder where I got the Happy Easter from. This is from 2 honeybee stamps. I love honeybee stamps for sentiments because they give you so many options. But I'm using 2 sets. One is their birthday set and one is their happy set. And they have all kinds of dies to go with them, but I'm just combining the 2 onto here. I'm using VersaFine black onyx ink. It's the blackest ink I know of. I'm going to leave a place down here for you to put down over here. I'm going to put Happy Easter here. And then you could put their name, or maybe you want to put some buttons. Buttons, buttons, buttons. Let's put some buttons down there. Okay, we'll do that. Actually, let's do that last. I want to put a little topper on here. I'm going to use some green seam binding that has been dyed. And I'm going to do a couple of lengths of it. So that it'll look like the greenery on top of the... Just put that through the hole. Everybody has their own way, but for this, I want it to be kind of fluffy up near the top. See if I can get both of those through there. Yes, I can. So I'm just going to tie it so that it's nice and fluffy and looks like the greenery up on the top of our carrot. I apologize, my fingers aren't working very well this morning, but we'll get it. We just slow down, take our time. There's our green little topper. Love that. And now we can add some, I'm going to put 3 little buttons. I'm going to put, should we do 3? I wish I could hear what you think. Should we do 3 little orange ones? Or a green one? And I think a green one and 2 orange. That's what I think. You're probably screaming through the screen, no, go with all orange or just the green. You know, we all have our preferences. You do you. I'm going to put these on here. You could tie string through them. You could put a little piece of lace underneath this. I didn't think of that, or I would have done that first. Hearing all the sounds of the household. We're just gonna, you know what, we're just gonna do that for the next little while, and then one of these days it's not gonna be like that. And that's okay. I bet there's noise in your household too, right? Going to put our 3 little buttons down here. Oh, I think they are so cute. I used Fabri-Fix because it holds on to plastic. It's silicone glue. It holds fabric to fabric, fabric to paper, paper to paper, plastic to paper. This is not the bottle it comes in, Fabri-Fix. I have it listed in the description below, but I also have the Sugar Bell icing bottle because it is easier. I transfer it over, the glue over into here, because I like this nice little metal tip. It lets me just put a little tiny bit out. I want to bring our tags. They look totally different, but we've done the exact same technique. We've made a fancy tag, we've made a grungy tag, we've made a simple tag that we could fold up and make into a pocket if we wanted to. So you have everything you need to know to make some tags. And so I hope you get started on them. I'll be back with another fun ephemera idea in a little bit, but get started. please tag me with Jann Gray Easter 2023. I would love to see what you're making. Tag me on Instagram. I'll put pictures on Instagram so that you can see what these tags look like up close, because I know that sometimes when we're moving quickly through them, it's hard to see everything that that's being done. So I will take pictures and I'll see you then. Hope you're having a blessed day. Love you guys. See you soon.